say it definitely turns into a habit. So in the beginning, I've been doing like using this particular tool for the last 7 years. And in the beginning, yes, it took me setting more reminders or putting it on my phone or whatever the case may be. Now, as I wake up in the morning, my brain is already like, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. All of life comes to me with ease and joy. It just so automatically happens. I still do have moments where I forget to do it. But the more you use it, you're just inviting more of that. And even when you think like, oh, I have so much ease, it's no way I can have more ease, you will be surprised at how much more ease can show up.
Welcome to the Salt Podcast, where we talk about all things simple. Yep, simple anointed living tips. I'm your host, Jenny Peña. All right, so we have a special guest today, Kiran, my dear friend, who I met quite a few years back when we were living in the UAE. And she was quite the help for me. And I just had to have her on here. So thank you, Kiran, for accepting my invitation. And just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited and super grateful to even be doing this. And yes, us meeting in good old Ruiz feels like it was eons ago. The world has changed so much since we met.
So true. Us. Oh my goodness, yes.
Well, about me. So, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so just tell us like about you, and then definitely a lot has changed. So what has changed for you, like for the better, or what did things used to look like and they look like now? But tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I guess I guess I'll start with what has changed. So we met in the UAE at least probably 3 years ago. And where we were living is, in a small, tiny town, small community. Everyone knows each other, and our lives are just so about, family and managing the house. And at the same time, trying to create our businesses and expand the work that we do while living in a really small town, which now that I look back, I'm like, that was a little challenging. So good for us for being able to navigate that and do our best with that. I mean, I didn't realize how challenging it was until I got out of it. But I suppose we did the best that we could. And then our world changed with lockdowns and pandemics and all that fun stuff. And I ended up packing my bags. I had 8 days to pack and vacate my apartment and move back to Canada. And it was definitely quite interesting because we experienced getting stuck and not being able to fly back and trying to move countries while dealing with all the restrictions. And I have to say that using the tools and techniques that I have learned, which I now share with others, made the whole experience so much easier for me. So on the outside, it was, oh my God, all these things are happening. But while being in it, we actually had a lot of ease with that. And I think that has sort of shown me that maybe I can spread the information and I can talk more to people about how they can have ease if they choose it. Not everyone chooses ease, but I think it's possible for everybody.
And that's the topic that we're pretty much going to play around with, right? Is how to do things with ease when maybe it's not happening around us. But like, how did you come upon all of this anyway? Like, when did this all start for you? As far as learning the tools and...
So this started for me. It's very interesting because I was just a regular teenager going to school, and one of my teachers started talking about this form of healing, this healing technique known as Reiki, which is a hands-on Japanese healing technique, which a lot of people know about now. Back then, it was not as popular. And I say back then because that was over 20
Back
years
then,
ago.
because we're dinosaurs, by the way.
Yeah, we're ancient. It was there. Of course, it existed. I guess it just wasn't as openly talked about. I think it was
It was for
considered
the
more like
hippies.
hush hush. It was for the hippies, or it went to the extreme of, oh my gosh, only like the witch people do it. You must be doing some kind of voodoo, black magic stuff.
Right.
So I don't think people, it wasn't as openly received, I suppose, or just people were not open to the idea of it. Yeah.
I will say that as a Christian, I can see where people come in and be like, well, that is witchcraft, or that is playing with like evil energies or things like that.
Right.
But bringing it on my perspective, and I know other Christian friends would agree, that there is scripture that talks about the power of the laying of hands. And pretty much that's Reiki, right?
Right, exactly. And it's not about, so if I'm doing Reiki for you, it's not, I have this power that I am like putting on your body or helping you with. You're just allowing this higher power to work through you. And, you know, some call it the universal power, some call it God, some call it consciousness or universal energy. But it's not to say that, you know, now I'm playing God or I can do this or I can do that. It's just allowing that to flow through you, because that's, to me, at least in my perspective, and I've grown up Catholic.
Okay.
So it's like if someone is praying over you, you know, and the power of prayer is also so powerful, but that's not to say the person praying over you is now, trying to be God or trying to be this savior. It's just, I'm using the tools that I have available to support you in any way that I can. You know, and so you first learned
about this when you were a teenager?
Yeah. I was about 15. So this teacher of mine was just talking about it. I don't even know how she started talking about it, but something about what she was saying just resonated with me on some level. And I was like, I have to learn this. I just have to learn it. I didn't even know why I had to learn it. I just did. And I took my first class at that time, and I haven't turned back since. And through this journey, I've learned so many other techniques in terms of using crystals, and there are other techniques like pranic healing and emotional freedom technique, a little bit of hypnotherapy where you're working with the subconscious mind, the benefit of contemplation and meditation, or yoga. So it's been such a journey, and a lot of it was more for me in the beginning, where I'm like, I'm just curious and I just want to learn and see where this takes me. But over time, I realized that this is stuff I could share with people, and if they choose, they can try it. And if it works for them, excellent. And if it doesn't, they don't have to. So I don't ever feel like I have to force it on you. It's just, hey, this is available. This is possible. Try it. Try it once, try it twice. If you don't like it, you can ditch it. If it works for you, keep using it.
That's amazing. I wish that when I was a teenager, that's what I had gotten into, because what I got into as a teenager, let's just not even say out loud. But that's just amazing. Like, as a teenager, the closest thing I ever got to that was the book, The Power of Now. As a teenager,
amazing.
Was at least a little bit helpful, but it didn't, like, I had nothing else like substance to help me, like, you know, stay even in the realm of morals. Like, I had nothing. So anyway, I'm amazed that you were able to like did you have like a healing, this might be too personal, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but did you have something that you needed specific healing for, that these tools like really drew you more?
So yes, I'm glad you asked that, because I haven't even thought about that in so long. At the time, so I think when I was 16, maybe, I was diagnosed as having hypothyroidism, as well as
Oh,
as well as PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome.
symptom.
PCOS. It's
Yeah.
called
Mhm.
PCOS or PCOD. There's so many
Mhm.
acronyms for it now that I've kind of lost track. Mm.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you were using this to help heal
To help
that, or
myself. Yeah,
right.
to help myself because I mean, at least at the time, for hypothyroidism in particular, it was, well, here's a pill, and you're now going to have to take this every single day for the rest of your life. And at the time, I was like, no, thank you. That does not work for me. It's a typical teenager mindset. I'm like, no, I'm not taking this every day. Are you joking? There's no way. So I mean, I
Wow.
did take
Yeah.
it, and this is not me telling people to not take their medication. This is not me telling people to not listen to doctors. I'm just sharing my experience, and I'm most definitely not a doctor.
Yeah.
This so I did start taking it because at the time I was dealing with like the symptoms of it quite. It was quite intense for me at the time. I guess like I was super tired all the time. I was really cold all the time. I mean, it would be summer and I was wearing a jacket just because my thyroxine levels were so off. So
Phew.
I did take it. I did take the medication, but while taking it, I was like, what else can I do to support my system? Because I guess I may not have been able to articulate it at the time, but I knew on some level that our bodies are so super intelligent and our bodies can take care of themselves. And sometimes it just requires us providing the body that extra support to do what it needs to do. Um,
True.
so, yeah,
And yeah, and I can totally relate to that. Like now,
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
myself back then and me and you, I would have been like, she's crazy. But now I'm like, dude, this is true. Like this stuff truly helps. And there's so
yeah,
much going on around us that is
yeah,
like the true evil and true negative energy and truly like feeling like it's such a spiritual battle and a spiritual attack constantly, like
yeah,
energetically, just even as a mom. I know you don't have children, but you can
yeah,
feel that like even
of
just
course,
being energy sensitive, right? You can feel people's energy and being in a relationship, you're married and
of course.
having to deal with all this even with our own internal struggles.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
like going back to today's topic, like you said that you wanted to talk about the tools that we can use to bring more ease. So, what do you mean by ease?
Okay, so just to give a little bit of background, so like I said, through this whole journey, I've learned so many different techniques, and now I teach it, I facilitate it, I do therapy work in one-on-one sessions. I guess you can call me a therapist, a personal development coach, a wellness consultant. There's so many labels these days.
Mm-hmm.
But the tools that I want to talk about come from this body of work known as Access Consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
which was developed in the United States over 40 years ago now by this
Okay.
gentleman named Gary Douglas. And one of the things he talks about in terms of access is everything is a choice. Everything is a choice. And sometimes we're not willing to really acknowledge that because you'll hear a lot of people talk about, well, I had no choice. But
Mm.
sometimes not choosing is also a choice you're making. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so he talks about, even with ease, we can choose to have more ease. Now, that doesn't mean that you will not have a stressful experience. And a common example I give is, just because you're choosing ease doesn't mean you're not going to have a flat tire while you're driving. You can still have a flat tire, but maybe within 10 minutes, someone is there, someone is changing your tire, and you're on your way again. As opposed to, oh, I was standing on the side of the highway for 5 hours till this got taken care of. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So ease is
Yeah.
not like everything's just gonna be perfect every
Yeah,
single day. Yeah.
exactly.
Like,
It's not going to be perfect at all.
right, because it's this world that we live in.
Yeah,
Nothing's
yeah,
perfect and things come up.
exactly.
We don't know the future or what's going to happen this next second. But when it happens,
Exactly.
we can trust that it can be taken care of with ease. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes. And to ask for more ease, whether, and it doesn't, and it's not about, oh, you have to believe in something specific, whether you believe that a higher power exists or God exists or the universe out there exists, ask for that. You have to be willing to ask for that because how is it going to show up if you're not even going to ask for it? So with so even when it comes to ease, no matter what situation you're in, is to say, please send me ease. How can I have more ease with it? And when you ask that question, every time you use a question of, for example, how can I have more ease? You're sort of opening that door of different possibilities showing up versus saying, this is the worst day ever. This is the worst experience. And everything has gone to shit. Pardon my beautiful language. But in that
That's how it
moment,
feels,
that's how we
though.
feel. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we kind of decide and conclude that this is it doesn't allow room for things to change. But if we say, okay, how can I have more ease with this? You're kind of keeping yourself open to something different possibly showing up or to ease showing up in a different way. So a lot of it is being willing to be open to things changing versus saying this is never going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
So,
that kind of took me into my first tool
yeah,
that
I
I
was
was
going to
going to
say it's,
share.
yeah. So the first tool is basically being open, like asking and being open.
Yes, yes. And so you can just say, how can I have more ease with this? Just asking, how
Okay.
can I have more ease with this? And it's not about as soon as you ask that question, the answer is just going to pop right away. It may show up 30 minutes from now. It may show up an hour from now. But at least you're in that space of openness. So when it does show up, you can even recognize it. If you're so closed off, you will not see it. But if you can be open, someone may show up and say, hey, can I help you with this? Or if you're having a hard time, let's say with your kids, you have things to do and the kids are really energetic and they need to channel out all that energy. Maybe someone can show up and say, hey, would you like me to play with your kids for the next 30 minutes? Will that help you? Or should I take them to play or should I take them to the pool? So you've got to be willing to ask, whether you're asking a person, whether you're asking it just out into the air, whether you're asking God, you've got to be willing to ask. You versus just expecting it to show up without you asking.
Yeah, I definitely need to do that because there's
Yeah.
situations where it just feels like, like right from when I wake up, it's like they're fighting and there's,
Yeah.
dirty dishes in the sink or somebody spilled something and now there's a huge fat mess and I still have to do my everyday things. So it's
Yeah.
like, this is how it starts. Like, why? Like, I guess it's also changing how my initial thought is instead of like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I have to wake up to this today? Just,
Right.
okay, how can I
Right.
approach this with ease? Or what would the question be there?
Yeah.
Please
So
bring
you
me
can,
ease or
yes, even in that, like even as you wake up and you see your house and you think, oh my goodness, this is a disaster.
yeah.
How can I have more ease with this? Or God, please send me some ease. Because sometimes maybe it's about changing your perspective a little differently. Maybe it's not as big a disaster as you think it is in your head. Things tend to be a lot worse in our heads than it actually is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and that also comes from how harshly we tend to judge ourselves. Yeah, I mean, our world in general is quite judgmental and we're taught to judge, but not sometimes, most of the time, we judge ourselves a lot harshly, a lot more harshly than we do others. You know, you may walk into your friend's home who has kids and it's a mess, and you'd be like, it's okay. It's not that big a mess. I understand you have kids. But if you walked into your own house and saw that, you may be way more judgmental of it. Just by virtue of, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so like you said, you wake up in the morning, how much more ease can I have today? Or God, please send me more ease today.
And I'm going to use that, girl. Yeah.
You know, and
please
kids,
tell me more. Like, I need all the tips.
You know, and you and me have talked about this before. Kids are so sensitive and responsive to their parents' energy, to their parents' state of mind. So if your state of mind is stress or distress or panic or fear or whatever is going on for you, kids are just there responding to it because they're so open. They don't have a point of view. Kids don't have a point of view about mess and no mess. They don't have a point of view of, right, you know, or they don't have a point of view of this is a bad situation versus this is a good situation. You know, they're just living their lives, having a wonderful time, looking for joy, looking for play. So even if they're stranded somewhere, they're going to be playing. They're going to find a way to play. So
that is so true.
Right, exactly. So if you are feeling that stress and you're feeling whatever you're feeling, your kids are going to respond. So chances are they're going to act up even more because they're responding to that. So not to say you're bad and wrong for feeling that way. You are completely entitled to feel what you feel, but just be aware that a lot of times kids are responding to that. So for example, if you said here, how can I have more ease? That may start to change how you're feeling. And I wonder if that will start to change how they're behaving.
Well, so, I sure hope so, because I definitely do want to try it. Okay, so the first tool is asking and being open to it, asking for ease, right? So what would another thing be then?
So in line with that, so again, asking for ease is not something a lot of us are used to doing. And it's not something we can receive very easily because our world also talks about, you know, how wonderful it is to struggle. And if you notice as people talk, there's a lot more praise when someone can say, I struggled through this. You know, I worked really hard. I struggled through this and then I got here. People tend to praise that a lot more versus, oh yeah, I got there with ease. So in our minds, like somewhere in our subconscious, we tend to believe that we must always struggle. So another way of adding more ease to your life, if you were to choose it, because it is choice and it's completely okay if you don't choose it, is to use this phrase, which again comes from Access Consciousness, that goes, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. So you can write this phrase down.
All of life comes to me with ease, grace, and glory. Joy.
Ease, joy, and glory. Hey, you can add grace. Joy. If you feel like adding that, go ahead.
I need grace. I do.
Yeah,
grace
no problem.
And to receive it and give it.
Yep, and that's totally fine. So you take that phrase, you can put it on a post-it note, stick it on your bathroom mirror or by your bedside. And what if every day you started your day repeating that like 10 to 20 times? And then before you go to bed, you can repeat that 10 to 20 times. Or throughout your day, you can repeat it. Or when you're in a difficult situation, you can repeat it. Because again, that is part of asking for that and inviting more of that into your life. So
yeah, and it reminds me of, you know, for our Christian listeners who might be like, oh, well, I don't believe in that affirmation mumbo jumbo. But there is scripture that says, you know, that there's power of life or death in our tongue. And so when you say that, it reminds me that if I speak life and these words are giving me life by the Most High's power, you know, not my own like make
Yes.
believe, like, I don't know, with waving a wand, but like,
Yes.
because we have this innate power from the Most High that we can speak it into being. And I'm not requesting something evil or,
Yeah.
summoning some demons or something. No, it's actually benefiting me and my children, like you said, and my whole family, because they're going to feel this whole energy. Like, I just went like opened my arms because I remembered you like
Yeah.
expand, expand, expand.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. And I don't know, also it's like the more you repeat it, it's creating like this memory habit, like creating a
Yeah.
habit. So maybe at the beginning we're
Right.
gonna have to repeat it a ton of times, but maybe later on, no. Like it'll just be more of like a habit already.
Yeah, I would say definitely turns into a habit. So in the beginning, I've been doing like using this particular tool for the last 7 years. And in the beginning, yes,
Hmm.
it took me setting more reminders or putting it on my phone or whatever the case may be. Now, as I wake up in the morning, my brain is already like all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. All of life comes to me with ease and joy. It just so automatically happens. I still do have moments where I forget to do it. Um, but the more you use it, you're just inviting more of that. And even when you think like, oh, I have so much ease, it's no way I can have more ease, you will be surprised at how much more ease can show up, even when you think you already have ease. And it's crazy how that happens. And like I said in the beginning, even though I had to move within a very
Mm-hmm.
short period of time, pack up my life, deal with all the restrictions, we truly did have a lot of ease with it. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
that there were no hiccups. We just were able to
uh-huh.
navigate it with ease.
Exactly. And I feel like um I don't know if you felt like this, but sometimes I feel like when you say to people these things, like, yeah,
Yeah.
all this stuff was kind of lined up kind of against us, but it just so
Yeah.
happened that it just happened like this. It was so
Yeah.
simple and we were able to get through it. And people are
Yeah.
like, I don't know if they react a certain way because of their own negative energy, maybe, okay, or maybe
Yeah.
they're like jealous, like,
Mm-hmm.
why don't things happen like that for me? You know what I mean? Especially when I tell people my
Yeah.
birth story, like not
Yeah.
my birth
Yeah.
story, but my baby's birth stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's like I almost can't even talk about it because it did happen with ease, even
Mm-hmm.
in the pain of childbirth and
Yeah.
the fears and everything, but it happened with ease. Like I can totally understand what you're saying because
Mm-hmm.
it just it just so happened. Like I didn't really plan it that way. I couldn't have planned it better
Yeah.
actually because
Yeah.
it happened so perfectly in on its own, because I just
Yes.
yeah, we prepared that way, you know, um spiritually because my husband and I are both
Mm-hmm.
Christian. So it we trusted that it would happen with ease and that there wouldn't
And
be
yeah.
complications and that we wouldn't have to go to the hospital, that we would have the home birth. So we trusted that it would
Yeah.
happen with ease, even though it was painful. It hurt. There was
Of
still
course.
pain, guys. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I totally get it. Like, and yeah, there was me memorizing phrases and scriptures that would help me throughout
Yeah.
pregnancy and throughout the birth, even though it was short, but I still had those things in my mind.
Of course.
So I can totally see how like it seems like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna say this a million times and things are just gonna happen. But I guess that's part of the tool number one is you have to be open to it, right?
Exactly, exactly. And, even though I'm sharing these tools, I'm sharing things that I have used, this is more of an invitation to look for that, to look for, okay, what will bring me ease? So, like you said, you and your husband prepared spiritually. So, you guys did what you knew to do that would help you, whether it's helping you
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the pain or the stress or the whole process, like the logistical process of it. You
Right.
guys did what you need to do, and you made that effort, or you made that choice rather, to say, I'm going to memorize these scriptures, that is going to help me. So you were already looking for that so that everything can go as smoothly as possible. And having known you for the last little while, you do look for that, or you have that faith to say, okay, these are the things I can do, or these are the choices I can make so that things can go smoothly. So it's not just about you have to use these tools and that's it. It's start looking for that so that you will know what will bring you that ease.
Wow.
And why not?
And that's
and
like an individual journey too. Right. Everyone has to find what works for them, you know, like be it you're, you know, into whatever you're into, believe whatever you believe, but being open to it. And I guess maybe even that, like asking for it, like, can I have the ease? Like, bring me the tools that will bring me the ease, I guess.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Even that, to just say, show me what can bring me ease. Because like you said, it's so different for everybody. And it's not that if you use something and I don't use it means it's bad and wrong, or it's the perfect thing to do or choose. It is so different. And can we choose that for ourselves without judging others who don't choose it? Or without saying, no, what you're doing is wrong. You must do what I do. Because why? We're so we're so unique. We're all so unique. Our bodies are so unique. Our lives are so unique. The same thing cannot possibly work for everybody. Mm-hmm. Because we're just different. And that's completely okay. Can we honor that difference versus make it a wrongness?
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. Girl. Okay. So recap. Tool 1, ask and be open. And tool 2 is this phrase, or any phrase practically, I think, that will it just repeat on a daily, right? To help you bring you back to this ease in the situation. And tool 3.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Yeah, so just to recap the phrase that I was sharing, but like I said, add whatever you want to add to it or take out whatever you want to take out, is all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And I did for a second want to touch on joy because I feel like that is, again, such an underrated, I guess, emotion or feeling, because why not we have joy in our day, in our life? Why do we not ask to have more joy? Why don't we follow that joy? Like, why don't we make choices based on whether it would bring us joy or not?
Yeah.
Why not?
And
kids are great examples of that.
Oh my goodness, yes. Like, if it wasn't for them, sometimes it's true. I'm in this situation and like putting myself, like piling things up on myself mentally, and they're just like so ready just to give me a hug or a kiss or I love you, mommy, you know. They are so sweet.
Right. And how much joy does that bring you in that moment of where, you know, you're stressed or whatever, and you're like, that one hug or that acknowledgement of you where they say, I love you, mommy. How much joy does that bring? But do we kind of acknowledge that versus, okay, yeah. Okay, now I got to go do something.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, let it come and absorb it and let it completely shift the energy back to joy.
Yeah. And what if we lived our lives to say, okay, if I choose to go here or meet this person or eat this meal, will it bring me joy or not? What if we use that as a little bit of a compass to navigate our lives?
Oh, okay. So that's a little twist, because that's also putting a boundary on like what to say no to and be okay with it. Yeah, I used to struggle with that a lot, girl, because I am a helper and encourager, and I want to just do things. Like, I love giving. I'm such a giver. And people can take. And of course, if you give to the wrong people, you know what I'm talking about. There was so much drama with my giving and giving.
Yeah.
And just to the wrong people who I didn't set boundaries with, and it came and bit me in the butt. What? I could not believe that.
Yeah. Because you've got to be willing to look at, okay, yes, I'm willing to give and I'll give everything, but can they actually receive that? Not everyone is willing to receive that level of generosity or help or whatever it is that you're trying to provide. And you're obviously providing it from a really good space. You're not expecting anything. You're just like, sure, I'll give you. But you've got to be willing to look at, can they receive it? And if they can't, that's exactly what happens. They turn around and somehow make you wrong for doing what you were trying to do, even though you're like, I was just trying to help you. Why am I being made wrong for just trying to help you?
And that's where joy, like you're saying, can be the compass of like, is this me being giving, bringing me joy, or long term, this person and me joy? And not in a selfish way, but like truthfully and realistically, like, is it worth the negativity that can come out of this if it does?
Yes.
So it can be like, like a compass, like you said.
Yeah. And what's fun to try, I've asked a few people to do it and I've done it, is even if you say, okay, for the next 2 hours or for the next 24 hours, for example, I am only going to choose the things that bring me joy. So whether it's what I'm going to eat for lunch, whether it's where I'm going to go, what I'm going to wear, who I'm going to talk to, I will consciously, from a place of awareness and mindfulness, say, I'm going to make the choices that will bring me joy. And see what your day looks like.
That is so cool. You know what? That is so cool because, we hear a lot about self-care. And for me, a lot of the things that people talk about for self-care is like pampering, which is good in its own right. I'm not saying it's not good to pamper yourself and go get your hair done and all those things, but like on a self-care, like in its like core of like do the things that bring you joy purposely, like set this time, like you said, like an hour or realistically what the time that you have to do the things, at least 1, 2, 3 things in this time frame that you can set aside for yourself that brings you joy. Because like me, for example, and maybe the majority of our listeners might be moms with 1, 2, 3 kids like me, or busy lives that don't have the luxury to set time aside for themselves to have these things that bring you joy, like journaling or like talking to a friend, like joyfully, not like maybe crying. I don't know if that's what you need to do. Cry it out, okay, but like someone that's like this, like makes you laugh, that have a deep conversation, something meaningful. Like for me, it's always my mama. Like my mama and I are besties, and whenever I talk to her, she just makes everything better. And sometimes I don't even have to tell her that I'm going through something. I just want to talk normal. Like she doesn't even have to know, and we can just have awesome conversation. And then after I'm done, like I'm so energized again, and I can be more present for my kids and things like that, right?
Exactly. And some people feel like, oh, if I choose for me, I'm being selfish. But no, because when you are joyful, that is a greater contribution to your family and the people around you. And you can include, choosing joy for you doesn't mean you're excluding your family. You're including them. So even if it's, I got to take the kids out to play, which place will bring you joy? Which playground are you like, oh, I'd like to go to that playground versus this other one? Or today I would like, it brings me joy to cook this meal or this dish or this dessert versus something else. So all of that is still including your family, but you are looking for that joy. You're making the joyful choice. And if you're happy cooking that meal, think about how amazing that meal is going to turn out and how that's going to impact your family.
Right. Yeah.
So it's always an inclusion. It's never an exclusion. Some people think the self-care piece, whatever that is, somehow has to exclude those close to you or has to exclude your family, but it never does. Because if you are feeling great, like you said, when you talk to your mom, you are there for your family in a very different way versus if you've talked to someone and you feel super drained or super annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So play with that. Play with that and see how it goes. And then I did want to move on to the next tool, unless you have a question for me.
No, please. You
Okay,
keep
cool.
telling me because I'm like writing notes.
Awesome. So this next tool is something everyone knows, but I also think it is a little underrated or people don't.
Hey, it's me, just taking a quick sec to let you know about the Pink Premium Access. Get the link for access in the show notes or heavenlytreasure.net, where you can choose monthly or yearly access options. You will get all the uncut gems hidden from the Salt podcast, plus exclusive episodes, promos from guests, Ask Me Anything episodes, and private group Zoom calls for access members only. Sorry to hide these next gems from you. See you in the Pink Premium, and thanks for helping me keep the show alive and running.
You know, I've really had to look at this in my own space about why I do what I do. I could choose to do so many different things. But one of the things that keeps coming up for me is that I choose and I desire to live in a kinder world where people are just kinder. There's more kindness, there's more uplifting, there's more supporting one another versus fighting one another all the time. And the way I have chosen to do it is through this work. And, you know, even as a result of this podcast, if it can help even one other person have more ease and kindness and joy in their lives, think of the ripple effect that that would have, because each person has their community, has their family, has their friends. So if they're even willing to use it for themselves, that will have the ripple effect.
It will indeed, girl.
So even one person, or two people saying, okay, out of all these tools, I'm going to try using one. The ripple effect will happen. The raising of kindness and, I guess, consciousness, or people just looking at things differently will happen. And this is why we do what we do. I mean, this is part of why you're doing what you're doing. At least that's the sense I get, you know, to educate people to something different, to say, hey, this is also possible. They may choose it, they may not choose it, but even if one person chooses it and it changes their lives, I mean, you've done an amazing job.
Yeah, well, you already started with me. So even if our listeners are like, well, I'm not going to do any of that. Well, it started with me already, friends.
Yeah.
So the ripple effect is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. Yeah. This conversation then to me has been totally worth it.
Yes.
Aside from the fun I'm having.
This was a bring joy decision. Like, yep, this will bring joy. Well, I'm so glad that you did accept my invitation.
Yeah.
And what do you have any other thoughts?
Yes.
Final thoughts?
No, I do have a final thought, because I've become very aware of this recently, is if you are going to use the tools, I invite you to give yourself a good amount of time to play with it. And I say play with it because this doesn't have to be serious business. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, I forgot to say all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and joy today, and then go into judgment about it. What if you use these tools to have fun? To say, I'm just going to have fun with these tools. I'll set the reminders. I may forget, I may not. It's okay. Have fun with it. And like I said, give yourself some time, give yourself a little consistency with it. You know, I've had people who say, I used it for 2 days and nothing changed. Well, like with anything new, you've got to be, or you can be a little more consistent with it to be able to see that change. It's just like taking a new pill or supplement or going to the gym for the first time. It requires a little more time and consistency so you can start seeing the results of it. If you choose not to do it, that's totally fine. That's just my recommendation. Just kind of, you know, give it a shot. If you're going to do it, give it a shot. And if not,
Wow.
that's okay too. And yeah, and maybe what we can do, Jenny, is in the description of the podcast, we can put list out the tools, so at least people have it in writing as well. And that might make it a little
have
easier.
A little transcript on the notes and where people can find you and everything. But I want to know what you've been up to. Like, are you doing coaching, or are you working for like a certain, I don't know, what have you been up to, Kiran? Tell us.
Okay. So considering I just moved back to Toronto, as I mentioned, I am building my network here. So a lot of the work I'm doing right now is online, especially with all the restrictions and things. So I am doing private therapy sessions. I call them therapy / coaching sessions, which could be on anything, really. It could be on, like you're saying, I'm struggling to manage family and my time and my business. How do I navigate that? Or I'm dealing with, this body thing. I have massive pain here all the time. I don't know what's going on. How do I deal with that? Or, I want to change my financial reality. I would like to have more money or have more ease with money, because a lot of people will be like, I make a lot of money and then it just disappears by the end of the month and nothing has happened. So whether it's to change finances, body, relationship, in any which way, those are some of the private therapy sessions that I do and work with. I also facilitate workshops on a lot of these life topics, again, with ease, with money, with body, relationships, more regular day-to-day stuff. Workshops. Yeah, and right now, those are the two things I'm doing. I do have a website that is in the works. We're so close to being done. So I have not shared that yet, but in the future, I will once it's ready. And then I also share a lot of these tools on my Instagram. I've chosen that as my platform for now to just share the information. But it's a great way for you to get in touch with me, even if you have questions to say, I didn't understand this, or how can you tell me more about whatever. Instagram is the way to go. And then even the workshops that I schedule and facilitate, which I do it with a wellness center in partnership with a wellness center in Dubai. Nice. It's in my bio.
Oh, I did see that. Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
So that's
okay. I'll make
Yeah, and most of the workshops are online. So anyone can
I'll make sure to add that link in the show notes as well. And since we do have the premium access for our members, Kiran said that she is going to give a discount to her private coaching sessions for those premium members. So if you're listening to this and you are a premium access member, you can contact Kiran and get your first session discounted, right? Okay.
Yep.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope that a lot of you all take advantage of that, because Kiran is so helpful. If you haven't realized that after this almost hour of us talking, definitely reach out to her. We will put all of her information in the show notes so that you can find her on Instagram and maybe join her online sessions as well. And I think in the future, we're going to plan more of these. And for the premium members, we might even have, a Zoom call just for those premium members as well. So we are definitely going to announce more as we plan it, God willing, with all the success going forward, and see how it goes with fun and ease.
Yes, exactly. And really, thank you again, Jenny, for inviting me to do this. I've had way more fun than I thought I would. I mean, I kind of knew I would, but it's just been more. And thank you to all future listeners. And I hope it's a contribution to you. And one thing I always tell everyone is, if you have any questions or you're curious, please reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions. Even if it's a quick 5-minute question, I will answer it to the best of my ability. So please feel free to reach out. At this point, we can all use the support that we can get. So take advantage.
Yes. And definitely the first thing we talked about was just ask. Just
yes,
ask.
Exactly.
The initial step. And this is all about simple, right? The simple steps that we can do. Well, the first one is just ask. You need the help, ask. And Kiran is offering and putting herself out there. So contact me or her, and we can definitely help point you in the right direction. And with that, friends, thank you for listening. Yay, bye, Kiran.
Thanks. Bye, Teddy.
Thanks for listening in. Be sure to hit subscribe and visit heavenlytreasure.net for more. See you on IG at Heavenly Treasure Living. Till next time, blessings, and remember to be the salt of the earth.